The unwelcome visitor. The Galactic Empire was vast, encompassing thousands of worlds, each with its own unique species and culture. For centuries, the Empire had expanded its reach, absorbing or conquering everything in its path. The Emperor, a being known as Thalkor, was a ruthless ruler who believed that no species could stand against the might of the Empire. He was obsessed with finding new worlds to dominate, and his latest target was a small, blue planet on the fringes of the galaxy, Earth. Thalkor had received reports of this planet's inhabitants, the humans, and he was intrigued. Unlike most species, humans were not technologically advanced compared to the Empire. However, there were whispers among the stars, rumors that humans were not to be trifled with. Thalkor dismissed these as mere superstition. After all, what could a primitive race do against the might of the Empire? A small fleet of Imperial ships was dispatched to Earth, led by General Zarkan, one of Thalkor's most trusted commanders. Zarkan was eager to prove himself, to crush the humans and bring their world under Imperial rule. The fleet approached Earth with little caution, confident in their superiority. As they entered Earth's orbit, Zarkan ordered a transmission to be sent to the planet's leaders. The message was simple: submit to the Galactic Empire, or be destroyed. It was a message that had brought countless worlds to their knees. But the response from Earth was not what Zarkan expected. Instead of fear or submission, the humans responded with a single warning: stay far, far away. Zarkan scoffed at the audacity of the message. Who do these humans think they are? He muttered to himself. They will learn their place. But as the fleet prepared to descend upon Earth, something unexpected happened. One by one, the Imperial ships began to fail. Systems shut down, weapons malfunctioned, and communication with the rest of the Empire was lost. Panic spread through the fleet as the ships were left helpless, drifting in orbit. Zarkan was furious. What is happening? He demanded of his crew. We don't know, sir, a terrified officer replied. It's as if the planet itself is rejecting us. As the fleet floated aimlessly, a single human ship approached. It was small and insignificant compared to the Imperial vessels, but it carried an aura of power that Zarkan could not ignore. The human ship transmitted a message directly to Zarkan's command ship. We warned you, the voice said, calm and cold. You should have stayed far, far away. Before Zarkan could respond, the human ship unleashed a barrage of energy that tore through the Imperial fleet like a hot knife through butter. The once mighty ships of the Empire were reduced to scrap metal in an instant, leaving Zarkan and his crew in stunned silence. The human ship lingered for a moment, as if to ensure that the message was understood, and then it vanished, leaving the remnants of the fleet to drift helplessly in space. Zarkan, shaken to his core, knew he had to return to the Empire and report what had happened. But deep down, he feared that Thalkor would not take kindly to this failure. The humans were more dangerous than he had ever imagined, and the Empire would not be pleased to learn that they had been warned, and ignored it. As Zarkan set course for home, he couldn't shake the feeling that the humans were watching, waiting for the next move. The warning had been clear, but the question remained, would the Empire heed it? The Emperor's dilemma. Back on the Imperial capital, the news of General Zarkan's failure had spread like wildfire. The once mighty general had returned, but without his fleet. He stood before Emperor Thalkor in the Grand Throne Room, his head bowed in shame. Thalkor was not pleased. His eyes, cold and unforgiving, bore into Zarkan as he recounted the events that had transpired above Earth. The Emperor's advisors whispered among themselves, their expressions a mix of disbelief and fear. Never before had the Empire encountered such resistance from a supposedly primitive race. So, Thalkor finally spoke, his voice a low growl. You allowed a single human ship to destroy an entire fleet. Zarkan struggled to find his voice. My Emperor, it was unlike anything we've ever seen. Their technology, it's as if they control the very fabric of space itself. We were powerless against them. The Emperor's expression remained stoic, but his mind raced. If the humans truly possessed such power, they could pose a significant threat to the Empire. But Thalcor was not one to back down from a challenge. He had conquered countless worlds, crushed numerous rebellions, and he would not be intimidated by a backwater planet. What do we know of these humans? Thalcor demanded, turning to his advisors. One of the advisors, a reptilian being named Scar, stepped forward. We have little information, my Emperor. The humans are relatively new to the galactic stage, but there are reports of them being different, unpredictable. Some say they are more dangerous than they appear. Thalcor narrowed his eyes. Dangerous? How so? Scar hesitated before responding. There are tales, my Emperor. Stories of humans surviving impossible conditions, of their resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. They are not like other species. Some believe they are a Deathworld species. The term sent a shiver through the room. A Deathworld species was one that had evolved on a planet so hostile, so lethal, that survival itself was a constant battle. Such species were rare, and they were often feared for their tenacity and brutality. Thalcor was intrigued. A Deathworld species, you say? Perhaps that explains their defiance. But they cannot be invincible. Every species has its weakness. Scar nodded. Yes, my Emperor. But finding that weakness may not be easy. The humans have already shown that they are not to be underestimated. Thalcor leaned back in his throne, his mind working through the possibilities. He could not allow the humans to defy the Empire. But a direct assault, as Zarkon had attempted, seemed unwise. He needed more information, a way to exploit whatever weakness the humans had. Very well, Thalcor said at last. We will not engage them directly, for now. But I want our spies to gather every piece of information they can on these humans. Find out what makes them tick, and find out what will break them. Zarkon, still trembling from his ordeal, was dismissed. As he left the throne room, he couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The Emperor was planning something that would bring the full might of the Empire down upon the humans. But Zarkon knew, deep in his bones, that the humans would not go down easily. As the Emperor's orders were carried out, spies were dispatched to Earth, hidden among the stars, observing and waiting. The humans had warned the Empire to stay away, but Thalcor was not one to heed warnings. And so the stage was set for a conflict that would shake the galaxy to its core. The humans had shown their strength, but now it was the Empire's turn to strike. But would they find the humans' weakness in time, or would they discover that some warnings should never be ignored? The infiltration. The Imperial spies were among the best in the galaxy. Trained in the arts of deception, sabotage, and assassination, they were the Emperor's silent hand, carrying out his will in the shadows. The mission to infiltrate Earth and gather intelligence on the humans was seen as a vital step in the Empire's strategy. The Emperor needed to know what he was up against, and these spies were his eyes and ears. The spies arrived in Earth's orbit in a cloaked ship, undetectable by human technology. They observed the planet for several days, studying the patterns of communication, the movements of military forces, and the layout of major cities. The humans appeared to be going about their lives, unaware of the danger that lurked above them. One of the spies, a skilled infiltrator named Kale, was chosen to descend to the planet's surface. His mission was simple: blend in, gather information, and report back to the Empire. Kale had been on countless missions before, but something about this one felt different. The humans were an unknown quantity, and that made them dangerous. Kale's entry into Earth's atmosphere was undetected, and he landed in a remote area, far from any major population centers. He disguised himself as a human, using advanced technology to alter his appearance. His mission began in earnest as he made his way to a nearby city, intent on learning all he could about the humans. As Cal walked among the humans, he was struck by their diversity. They came in all shapes and sizes, with different skin tones, languages, and customs. Yet, there was something that united them, an underlying strength that Kale could not quite put his finger on. He watched as they went about their lives, seemingly unaware of the looming threat from the stars. Kale's observations led him to a military base on the outskirts of the city. He knew that the human military would hold valuable information about their capabilities and defenses. Using his skills, Kale infiltrated the base, moving through the shadows, avoiding detection. He reached the command center, where he accessed the humans' communication network. As Kale sifted through the data, he came across something that made his blood run cold. The humans were not as primitive as the Empire had believed. In fact, they had been preparing for a potential invasion for years. The warning that had been sent to the Empire was not a bluff, it was a promise. The humans had developed advanced weaponry, capable of disabling even the most sophisticated Imperial technology. They had created defense systems that could repel an entire fleet. But most alarming of all, they had forged alliances with other species, forming a coalition that stood ready to fight alongside them. Kale quickly realized that the Empire was vastly underestimating the humans. They were not just a Deathworld species. They were warriors, strategists, and survivors. If the Empire attempted to conquer Earth, they would face a resistance unlike any they had encountered before. But Kale's mission was not yet complete. He needed to find a weakness, something that the Empire could exploit. As he continued his search, he stumbled upon a classified file, marked with the highest level of security clearance. It was a file on Project Aegis. Project Aegis was a top-secret human initiative, designed to create a weapon of unimaginable power. The details were sparse, but the implications were clear. If the project succeeded, the humans would possess a weapon that could destroy entire planets, a weapon that could turn the tide of any battle in their favor. Kale knew he had to get this information back to the Empire, but as he prepared to leave, he encountered something unexpected: a human woman. She was a scientist, working late in the lab where the file had been stored. She saw Kale and, mistaking him for a fellow human, asked for his help with some equipment. Kale was taken aback by her kindness, her unguarded nature. She introduced herself as Dr. Emily Carter, and as they talked, Kale found himself drawn to her. Emily was brilliant, passionate about her work, and dedicated to protecting her world. As they conversed, Kale realized that she embodied the very spirit of humanity, the resilience, the determination, the hope. She spoke of her fears about the future, of the looming threat from the stars, but also of her belief that humanity would prevail. Kale felt a pang of guilt. He was here to betray her, to gather information that would lead to the destruction of her world. But the more time he spent with Emily, the more he questioned his mission. Could he really condemn these people, these humans, to death? As Kale prepared to leave, Emily gave him a smile that warmed his heart. "Whatever happens," she said softly, "I believe in us. I believe we'll find a way to survive." Kale left the base, torn between his duty to the Empire and the feelings that had begun to grow within him. He knew that the Emperor would not be pleased with his report, but he also knew that the humans were not the enemy he had been led to believe. As Kale's ship ascended into the sky, he looked back at the planet below, a world full of life, love, and hope. A world that had warned the Empire to stay far, far away. The Emperor's rage. Kale returned to the Empire with the information he had gathered, but his heart was heavy. He knew that the Emperor would not be pleased with what he had to report. The humans were not the weak, primitive species that the Empire had assumed. They were a formidable force, and any attempt to conquer them would be met with fierce resistance. As Kale entered the throne room, he could feel the tension in the air. The Emperor was seated on his throne, his eyes narrowing as Kale approached. The advisors were present as well, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Kale knew that his next words could determine the fate of an entire planet. Falcor leaned forward, his voice cold and commanding. "Report, Kale." What have you learned? Kale took a deep breath and began to recount his findings. He spoke of the humans' advanced weaponry, their strategic alliances, and the existence of Project Aegis. As he spoke, he could see the Emperor's expression darken, his eyes flashing with anger. These humans, Falcor growled, they dare to defy the Empire. They think they can stand against us. Kale hesitated before speaking again. My Emperor, the humans are not like other species. They are resilient, resourceful, and determined. They have warned us to stay away, and I believe they are prepared to defend their world with everything they have. Falcor's fury was palpable. He rose from his throne, his voice echoing through the chamber. We are the Galactic Empire. We do not bow to threats from primitive beings. If these humans think they can resist us, they will learn the true meaning of fear. Kale felt a surge of anxiety. He had seen the strength of the humans firsthand, and he knew that a direct confrontation would lead to devastating consequences for both sides. But before he could speak, the Emperor continued. Prepare the fleet, Falcor commanded. We will not wait for them to strike first. We will bring the full might of the Empire down upon them and crush their defiance once and for all. The advisors nodded in agreement, their expressions grim. They had seen the Empire's power, and they believed that no species could stand against it. But Kale knew better. He knew that the humans were different, that they would fight with everything they had to protect their world. As the meeting concluded, Kale was left with a sense of dread. He had fulfilled his mission, but at what cost? The Emperor was determined to wage war on the humans, and Kale feared that it would lead to a conflict that could consume the galaxy. But there was something else that weighed on Kale's mind: Emily. He couldn't forget her, the way she had spoken of hope and survival. She had believed in her people, in their ability to overcome any challenge. And now, Kale found himself questioning where his loyalties truly lay. That night, as Kale lay in his quarters, he was haunted by visions of the future. A galaxy engulfed in war, planets reduced to ashes, and the faces of those he had come to care for, Emily among them, lost in the chaos. Kale knew he had to make a choice. He could follow the Emperor's orders and condemn Earth to destruction, or he could defy the Empire and warn the humans of the impending attack. It was a decision that could change the course of history, one that would require courage, sacrifice, and a willingness to risk everything. The Empire was preparing for war, but Kale was preparing for something else, a rebellion of his own. He had seen the strength of humanity, and he knew that they deserved a chance to fight for their survival. But to give them that chance, Kale would have to betray the very empire he had sworn to serve. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Kale made his decision. He would return to Earth, but this time, not as a spy or an enemy. He would return as an ally, as someone who believed in the strength of humanity and their right to defend their world. And so, with a heavy heart and a steady resolve, Kale prepared to embark on a journey that would test his loyalties, his courage, and his love for a planet that had warned the Empire to stay far, far away. The final stand? Kale's journey back to Earth was fraught with danger. He knew that if the Empire discovered his intentions, he would be branded a traitor and hunted down. But Kale was driven by a sense of duty, not to the Empire, but to the people of Earth. He had seen their strength, their resilience, and he could not allow them to be destroyed. As Kale's ship entered Earth's atmosphere, he felt a mix of relief and apprehension. He had made it this far, but now he had to find a way to warn the humans of the impending invasion. Time was running out, and the Empire's fleet was already on its way. Kale landed in the same remote area where he had first touched down. He quickly made his way to the city, where he knew he could find Emily. She was his only hope of reaching Earth's leaders and convincing them of the threat they faced. As Kale entered the city, he was struck by how peaceful it seemed. The humans were going about their lives, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them. But Kale knew that this peace was fragile, and it would soon be shattered unless he acted quickly. Kale found Emily at the military base, working late in the lab as she often did. When she saw him, her eyes widened in surprise. "Kale, what are you doing here?" Kale didn't waste any time. "Emily, there's something you need to know. The Empire, they're coming. They're planning to invade Earth." Emily's expression turned serious. "How do you know this?" Kale took a deep breath. "Because I was sent here to gather information on your people. I was a spy, working for the Empire. But I've seen what you're capable of, and I can't stand by and let them destroy you." Emily's eyes searched Kale's face, looking for any sign of deception. But she saw only sincerity and something else, fear. She knew Kale was telling the truth, and that their time was running out. "We need to warn the others," Emily said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We need to prepare." Kale nodded. "I'll help you in any way I can. But we have to move quickly. The Empire's fleet is already on its way." Emily and Kale quickly mobilized the base, alerting Earth's leaders and preparing the planet's defenses. They knew that the odds were against them, but they also knew that they had no choice but to fight. As the Empire's fleet approached, Earth stood ready. The humans had fortified their defenses, deployed their advanced weaponry, and called upon their allies to stand with them. But despite their preparations, the sheer size of the Empire's fleet was overwhelming. The battle began with a ferocity that shook the heavens. The Empire's ships rained fire down upon the planet, but the humans fought back with everything they had. Kale fought alongside them, his loyalty now firmly with the people of Earth. As the battle raged on, it became clear that this was a fight for survival. The Empire was relentless, determined to crush the defiance of the humans. But the humans refused to back down. They fought with a determination that astonished even their enemies. Kale found himself fighting not just for survival, but for something greater, for the people he had come to care about, for the planet he now called home. And as he fought, he realized that he was no longer the person he had been. He was no longer a soldier of the Empire, but a warrior of Earth. The battle reached its climax as the Empire's flagship, commanded by the Emperor himself, descended upon the planet. Falkor was determined to personally oversee the destruction of Earth, but he had not counted on the resolve of its defenders. Kale and Emily led a daring assault on the flagship, fighting their way through the Empire's forces to reach the heart of the ship. The battle was brutal, but Kale and Emily fought with a ferocity that matched the Emperor's own. In the final moments of the battle, Kale faced the Emperor in a one-on-one duel. Falkor was a formidable opponent, but Kale fought with the strength of a man who had something to protect, something worth fighting for. As their blades clashed, Kale could feel the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. This was not just a fight for Earth, but for the future of all species who sought to live free from the Empire's tyranny. With a final decisive blow, Kale defeated the Emperor. The flagship erupted in flames, and the Empire's forces began to retreat. The battle was won, but the cost had been great. As the smoke cleared and the skies began to calm, Kale looked around at the devastation. But amid the destruction, there was hope. Earth had stood against the might of the Empire and had emerged victorious. Kale and Emily stood together, battered but unbroken. They had faced the worst the galaxy had to offer and had come out stronger. The warning that had been sent to the Empire had been fulfilled. Earth was not to be trifled with. And as they looked out at the horizon, Kale knew that he had found something worth fighting for, something worth living for. He had found a home, and in Emily he had found love. The story of Earth's defiance would be told throughout the galaxy, a tale of courage, resilience, and the power of the human spirit. And it would serve as a reminder to all who dared to challenge them. The humans had warned the Galactic Empire to stay far, far away, and they had meant it.